Well, guess who's back? What song starts off like that?
Guess
Guess who's
who's?
back?
Guess who's? See, now you messed up my rhythm.
I messed
Guess
your
who's?
rhythm up.
Guess who's back? And then, what is that?
I,
I don't know.
you are the jukebox,
I don't know that song.
but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I don't know what that is.
You don't know the artist.
No.
Well, I thought you said I don't know what. You said who. Anyway. Well, we're back. We're the same.
What does your shirt say?
My shirt says anxious for nothing.
Amen.
Is that your testimony?
Yeah.
Huh? Is that your testimony? I was talking to them. But
yeah.
the wrinkles.
Okay, there we go. Perfect.
Well, today, go ahead.
Well, go ahead. No,
you
I was just
wanna
going to
express
say,
a
hope everyone had a great day. Still praying for those that have been impacted, not only by the recent hurricane, but even the previous hurricane.
Is it Helene and Mitchell?
Yeah, it's just been horrible for some people with no power and really trying to make sense of the destruction. So please know you have people praying for you, praying with you and for you. So
yeah. I was reaching out. Yeah, certainly. I reached out to a few pastors down in Florida because, I think stuff like this affects the United States, just because it's in the mainstream media. But oftentimes we don't feel the intensity or are sensitive because it's not happening to us.
Very good.
And what an irresponsible mark of a Christian when the prayers come when it's just about you.
Absolutely.
I reached out to pastors that I knew in Florida because I think that it affects the state as well, not just those areas. And so what a clarion call for Christians to be Christians. Yeah, I think I can go on and on about that.
We can. But tonight or today, whenever you're watching, we have a very important subject. I think, and I hope as you're watching that you are seeing that we really want to tackle subjects that you
keep you from thriving.
Absolutely. And I would just say that you encounter on a daily basis. We're trying to be practical and biblical without necessarily giving you scripture, but everything that we do is Bible based.
I don't know that you said doesn't happen every day.
No, if I did, that's not what I mean. I said that.
What did you say? I probably misquoted you.
Okay, I said what people go through or what they tackle on a daily basis.
Oh, okay. All right. Because I was going to say that I think the topic that we have tonight, which is called good grief, before we hop in, I was trying to figure out if I could weave this in. I got distracted in the top. Today is mental health observation day, mental health day.
You messed that up. World.
Jordan did it.
Yeah, no, Jordan, our daughter, she told us about it. And I thought, oh, well, that's appropriate for our time. Hold on. I'm looking at my text message.
And there's a reason why.
It is World Mental Health Day.
So Mental Health Day.
No, you jacked it up, but that's okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Tonight, really, when you think about it and when you hear it, tonight we'll talk about it's going to impact your everyday. So tonight we're talking about good grief. You know how you've heard that? Well, good grief. Good grief, because grieving can be good when you go through the process. I feel like I'm in church.
Yeah.
Tell your neighbor, grieving can be good.
Can be good.
When you go through the process. Yep. So when you say that it's what they tackle or what they deal with every day, okay, that part. I don't think that people realize that grief affects you every day.
Yes, that is very good.
I think it becomes a part of our being, a part of our body.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we aren't sitting around crying or whatever, but there's this space in our spirits and in our minds that whenever there is grief,
watching the news, you could grieve. Seeing someone that you know on your job, you can grieve. You can grieve looking at the prices of groceries. So you're right.
Yeah, and even what we're talking about tonight, that same measure of grief. I know we had to grieve through a lot of stuff that we didn't even realize was holding us captive or that we had given a place to in our lives, because sometimes pain can become normative and
Mm.
thoughts can become normative. And living with that kind of thing, you feel like it's just your lot in life because you've not been calibrated to what it's like to live in a new story.
Or, and I know this can be something that I hide behind. I'm okay. Everything's fine. It didn't
Mhm.
really bother me. I'm good. And I think that can be someone's defense mechanism that they use so they don't have to grieve or don't have to even experience the hurt that really is
Painful
painful.
and real.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say unpresent,
Mm.
only because we can't say present. All right. So we've got four
Four and a
points.
bonus.
Yeah, 4 points
Yes.
and a bonus exercise that you can practically do. You got to hang in
Yep.
there and wait for us. The first one is that grief facilitates acceptance. Grief facilitates acceptance. Properly grieving helps you come to terms with the reality of loss, facilitating acceptance and reducing feelings of denial or anger over time.
Mm.
So I'll read it again. Properly grieving in parts. Properly grieving helps you come to the terms with the reality of loss.
Yes.
All right, so I'm gonna ask you a trick question.
Oh,
Can you grieve before the loss happens?
before the, why would I grieve something I haven't lost? No, don't do it because people don't do it
Well, okay.
before you lose it.
Mhm.
You
Let's,
know
let's,
you're about to.
yes.
Oh, you know it.
Well, you
You
don't
can
know
see
it
it. You
immediately.
can see it happening.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Can you give an example? I got
No.
one.
No.
How about job cuts are coming?
Um,
You know they're going to take your department off of the payroll, off the books, no longer part of the organization. And they're going in a different direction. So your department isn't even
hmm.
needed, meaning you don't have any chance, slim to none, to keep a job with the same company. You know it's about to happen. The best way to move through it is not ignoring it and saying, I'll be fine. I'll be fine.
Hmm.
I'll be fine. Oh, I'll get work. I'm going to take some time off and live my best life and whatever your numbing agent is. When you know something big is coming that is going to be at a loss for you. Now keep in mind, it's a loss for you, not what somebody else says is a loss. You
Absolutely.
might have coworkers like, I ain't like this job, no way. And plus, I've been interviewing, and I got a third interview. I'm going back to it's how it
Hmm.
registers. How it's ready. I know that there's some things that we have had to grieve with each other, which meant that the other had to let the other grieve. So if it was something that was in me,
Oh yes, and I'm like, oh well, it is what it is. And but I really meant that. Like it didn't hit me the way it hit him. It's unfair for me to not allow him to be sad about it, to grieve about it, to process it, to talk through it. Is that what you mean?
yes, but I
Yeah.
want to clarify something you just said.
Okay.
She is not flippant like that. Well, yeah. Well, that's
Oh.
that's what you just said.
Hmm.
And my wife is one of the softest, most gentle, shoot it straight at you, polite people that there are. And that's important when someone is grieving, that you understand that you may not understand in order for them to get through their matter. That's first one.
All right. Here's mine. Grieving. I understand we're talking about properly grieving. So that's just really, it really is. Grief is saying what is happening hurts.
Ooh. Yep.
That was fresh.
That is
I mean, it's
so
so
accurate.
simple,
It
but
is
isn't it?
pinpoint with precision.
Right?
Say it again.
Grieving is what is happening hurts.
Or what has happened
Yeah.
hurts.
Now, notice we did not say what is happening hurts and other people will understand. No. If it hurt you, it hurt you. It's not for someone else to understand, or you have to explain why it hurt.
I hope you're seeing the need to promote your own selfishness,
Mm.
because really in this case it's not selfishness. It might look like it. This is really self-care. This is you positioning yourself for what you need for you to be where God is taking you.
And grieving is thriving because you are saying, let me slow down. Let me love on myself enough to say, ouch, I'm hurting.
So my first point was that grieving, it promotes healing.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever you heal in an area,
Yeah.
you can begin to thrive in that area. And sometimes grief will make you feel like you are drowning. It is so it's yucky. You know, I really believe. Well, my hope and my prayer is two things. I really believe that this is already landing with somebody's. But I also really believe that there will be others that hear this or come along and hear it later, that this will resonate and land deeply with, because we have just learned to cover it up, to keep going,
White knuckle it,
and take care of everybody else but ourselves.
Absolutely.
And so we feel like if I stop to think about this thing, I am going to come undone.
Wow.
All right,
here's mine.
Yep.
So number 2, it's grieving. You said it was actually, yours was acceptance. Mine is promoting healing.
You know what?
Yeah. All right. That's okay.
You know what I read?
He had a long day. It's all right.
Okay.
Number 1, facilitates acceptance. Number 2, promotes healing. Acknowledging and working through grief allows you to heal from the loss of trauma, enabling you to move forward in life without being stuck in pain. Moving forward in life without being stuck in pain. This resonates deeply with me because I feel like I used to not be a good griever. I feel like my way of grieving was to just hunker down and press forward. Mm-hmm. I would get busy. I would make sure that I think I became more intentional on lists and to-dos, and busyness was my therapy or my numbing tool that I used to run away from grief. And it wasn't until honestly, I think recently. It wasn't until recently to where I gave myself the freedom, the ability.
Would space be
the
an
space?
accurate word?
That's a good one. The space to grieve. What does that look like for me? It's talking through it with our counselors. It's journaling. It's taking drives. And all right, this may be weird to some people, but talking out loud to God and like saying, I don't like this. This hurt. This is hard. And giving myself even the permission to cry and without explanation and feeling the pain.
That's important.
Feeling it, not rushing past it. That's how you heal. Maybe the grief. Well, and then there's not necessarily a timetable for grief. So maybe for me, sometimes one good cry is enough. Sometimes if it's deeper, it may be a few weeks or so. Yeah, I'll stop right there.
I hate to contribute even more, but I will say that the process of grieving can be longer if what you need to process as a loss hasn't come.
Yeah.
So if someone dies, okay, that's the clear point. On October the 10th, this person died. Now you can start the grieving process at the next level. Because sometimes, you're already grieving because a person is dying, they're not going to be here, or whatever the matters might be. But when they die, it's like the event stops. And now the grief, the dealing with the grief can start from that point. But when you don't know when an event is going to create loss, it can be longer. But my point is, once you recognize it, there was something that just happened recently, that that kind of hit me, and I realized that, okay, I gotta grieve this thing. Let me go on and move to my next one.
We said
I'm getting all it.
I know you are getting emotional.
Intentional.
I know, but we say we don't want to lose people, so we try to keep it.
So here's something funny.
So I'm not being rude.
No.
We really try to keep it succinct.
When I get off topic and I stay there too long, she'll under the thing where y'all can't see, she'll be like, I know that means wrap it up. So this time, as I'm about to go somewhere, my emotions are going.
No.
She puts her hand down and she does like this.
I was like, because I feel bad.
I know. She didn't want to do like this. So she was like, I told you, she's the sweetest, most gentle thing. All right, so I'm gonna move past this one. When I read this, I read it incorrectly. The way it read was, grief prevents mental health issues. That's the way it is to read. I read it that grief prevents mood issues. It's both.
It is both.
It's both. When you grieve something, so the health comes when there isn't. The health comes when what was dragging on you and pulling on you isn't there anymore. That's what promotes the health.
And you know what? Grief can appear. I couldn't think of the word.
Oh, yes.
In different hues. It can appear in anger. It can appear in isolation. It can appear in withdrawal. Yes. So there are different dynamics of grief.
When you become aware of yourself, you can move through grief more easily. So yesterday was our therapy session, and some got bumped in me that I didn't realize. And as soon as we got off of our session, I said, baby, I'm raw. I need to be left alone. And she did. But in that, she also took care of herself. She prevented my grieving to spill over. And it wasn't until a little bit earlier today did things begin to kind of settle in, and I have words for it. So again, it should have read, grief prevents mental health issues. So much more we could say there. But I read it that grief prevents mood issues, because you can get moody when there's something to grieve, whether you know what you're grieving or not.
So really, when you the point of that one is when you keep it bottled up, it's going to spew out somewhere else. It will then blossom into depression or blossom into fits of rage.
I don't like the word blossom because that means something pretty.
Okay. So,
but I think we all know it rots to depression.
Okay.
Or it can rot into, I think anyway, because that's how
my point was
just
growing.
Yes.
Like it grows, it erupts. How about erupts?
Okay.
It
all
erupts.
Right. I don't want to take your word from you, but
the point is, when you don't grieve, expect it to come out in
somewhere
in a detrimental way somewhere else.
And usually it's not in the place that you want it to, nor the time that you want it to.
Yeah. So he's like, why am I in the bed? Maybe it's something you need to grieve. Why am I eating so much? Maybe it's something you need to grieve. These are different indicators. All right. Number 4 for me, grieving builds resilience. Wow. Going through the grieving process helps develop emotional strength, and resilience, better equipping you to handle, future losses or hardships. Just recently, had a interesting communication from a person that I love.
Did you think through this?
Yes, I did.
Or are you making this up? This is real time.
It is. And the communication was bizarre and not warm. And I remember feeling like, yuck, that hurt.
It made me mad.
Where did that come from?
I was ready to fight.
What did I do? I don't like how I'm feeling. And all these things are happening, but I know I hadn't done anything wrong. And so I'm processing all this stuff. But then when I replied to the person, I replied from a sense of, here's my truth.
Resilience.
I know I love you.
Resilience.
I don't know what that was all about.
Resilient.
And I was able to grieve it, but then it didn't take me out.
Why do you think that was the case?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if it's because I knew it wasn't true. So there was just,
Okay.
I'm like, that is not who I am. So I'm not going to come into agreement with that. And so there was just a sense of loving myself and being resilient in loving myself. But I think it was just also like, I went through the process of grief, but I was able to go through it and there was a resolution, honestly.
So I respect you.
Okay.
Terribly.
Yeah.
But I think you were able to be resilient in it, move through it, process through it, because there's been so much other stuff you've had to grieve.
Yeah.
And so when you grieve through something, you learn how to let it not take you out. You learn how to, this is actually the best place to give the practical advice, the scenario.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Now, I didn't have to grieve that. I had to process through not picking the phone up. And she said, anyway, so how do you do this? Because grief is full of emotions. Grief is full of emotions. So part of my mental health journey in January of 2020, I did an inpatient treatment in Seattle, Washington, and they began to unpack a whole bunch of stuff. But one of the classes that we took, one of the sessions or lessons in one of the classes was about how to deal with your emotions. And so one of the prof said, imagine a shotgun house. You're sitting in the den and you're looking at you can see the front door, you can see the back door. He says, let the emotion in at the front door. The way I saw it was like this, this orderly gas or whatever that was coming. His emotions are supposed to last for 7 to 10 seconds. But the reason why they don't last that short amount of time is because we ruminate on them. So the emotions come in, I'm angry. And instead of recognizing that it's anger and letting it float past, it comes in and goes, you know what, I'm just so pissed off and they make me so, and then you start telling yourself stories and that story links to something else. And now anger is stuck at the front door. But if you can see the emotion and you realize that you're angry, you can recognize that's making me angry. That's making me angry. And you can literally watch in your mind the anger pass out the backside. And if anger comes up again, you let it through that front door and you let it pass through. Whatever the emotion is, the way that this is the only way you deal with grief. The way you deal with it is recognize that you have an emotion attached to it. And you watch that emotion come on through and pass through you in front of your eyes, not ruminating it, not hitting pause, and letting it go out the back door. I hope today was good. Whenever we do stuff like this, it reminds me of areas that I can go back and tap into more, but it also reminds me of some areas that I have been victorious in. That since I've got over it has moved me from surviving to a place of thriving.
Absolutely. All right.
God bless you. God bless you real good. I'm up on Monday. Every Monday is Mental Health Monday. I will see y'all Monday night at 7 p.m. if the Lord say the same.
Amen.
Have a great weekend, a good weekend, a good Friday, a good Monday.